All right. Hi, my name's Maddie Perkins,
I'm Alexis Schleiper.
and we're going to talk to you guys about tails today.
All right.
So, first of all, what is a tail? Maybe what's it used for? Where is it on an animal? What do you guys think? All right. So, if you said a tail is usually on the back of an animal, you are correct. And we're just going to talk about a couple different uses really quick. So first we have a fish. What do you guys think that would be used for? And if you said swimming and moving through water, you are absolutely correct. And what about a bird? And if you said for flying or gliding through the air, that is right. And last one. And that is a dog tail. So they use it to communicate and show their emotions. So they use it to kind of talk to us.
All right. So now we have a scorpion. What do we think a scorpion would use their tail for? It's kind of hard to see. We'll move this over here. All right. So you can see it's got this really pointy, it kind of looks like a thorn, like maybe on a rose bush, so that could hurt you. So they're probably for defense or attacking something.
All right, and now we have an opossum. So it's using it on this stick right here. So what do you think they use it for? And they use it for grasping and holding things. So their tail kind of works like our hands. So they use it to grab onto things.
And what about a horse? There's some horse, maybe cows around here in Kansas. What would they use theirs for? All right, if you said swatting flies or bugs away, that's absolutely correct. Their tails are full of tons and tons of strands of hair, which is kind of like a fly swatter.
All right, and then we have a rattlesnake. So the rattlesnake makes that sound like a maraca kind of, the chick, 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 chick. So why do you think they would make that sound? And they make that sound to scare away predators and also to warn things that they're there. So to let everyone know that they're there and they will attack if they need to.
All right, and what about a squirrel? What do we think they would use their tail for? It's really bushy. All right, so they live up in the treetops. So when they're at the very top of trees, the branches are really, really thin, right? So if they're bouncing from one to another, they're trying to balance so they don't fall.
All right, and then we have an alligator. This one has a couple different uses. So it looks kind of big, kind of heavy. So what do you think they might use it for? So they use it to move through the water like a fish kind of. And then they use it to defend themselves because it looks really heavy and scary, right? So they can hit things with it and defend themselves. And also, they'll store fat in there. And we can talk about that a little bit later.
All right, next we have a fox. What do you think they would use their tail for? Sometimes camouflage, but what if it's really, really chilly outside? They've got this big bushy tail that they can wrap around themselves and use for warmth.
All right, and then we have a peacock. If you've ever been to Sunset Zoo, they have them walking around a lot, so hopefully you guys have seen one before. So they have all these weird patterns and stuff, so what do you think they might use it for? So they use it for two different purposes. They use them to attract ladies sometimes, and also all these dots here, what do they kind of look like, maybe? So they kind of look like eyes. So when they open up their tails like that, and if you're a predator and you see all those eyes, it scares the predators away. So they use it to defend themselves.
All right, and then one more. This is a hippopotamus, and it's really, really tricky what they use their tail for. So you guys have any ideas? All right, so it's a really, really small tail. So that doesn't help too much. But let's think about dogs. When dogs go to the bathroom, do they go in one spots or lots of spots? Lots of spots, right? So they're doing that to try and mark their territory, and hippos use their tails to help them mark their territory.
All right, so now we're just going to look at the inside of tails a little bit. So up here in the left, does this look like an animal that we maybe talked about? It's kind of doing something with its tail with this stick here. So this is an opossum. And as you can see, just like the opossum usually does, it's grabbing onto the stick with its tail. So when you look at the bones in its tail, do they stop here? Maybe here? Or do they go all the way down to the end? Yeah, they go all the way down to the end, and that's so they can move every part of their tail so they can grab onto things.
Alrighty, and then over on this side, this looks like the outline of a bird, right? And we said they use their tails to help them balance in the air while they're flying, right? So if they're using their tail to help them balance, do they need bones in every single feather? No, they just need some bones right here, and that kind of acts like a steering wheel just to help them glide.
And then down here at the bottom, we have the outline of a horse. And again, what did they use their tails for? Swatting flies, right? So do they need a bone in every hair on their tail if they're just swatting flies? No, definitely not. So it just goes halfway down so they can move the whole tail, but they don't need to move every hair on their tail.
Alrighty, on this page, up here in this top corner over here, this looks like a dog, maybe a wolf, something like that. And what did we say that dogs use their tails for? Communicating with people, right? To show their emotions. So if a dog's happy, it's wagging its tail. So it would need its bones to go all the way down to the very end to make sure it can wag its tail fully.
All right, and then over here on the left, we have a snake, more specifically a rattlesnake, which we talked about earlier. So first, when you look at it, can you tell where the actual tail starts? So it starts all the way at the end here, where all these like long rib kind of bones stop. So there's the rattle at the end, and then down there, that is the tail. So then they can use it to rattle and move it and make sound to defend themselves, like we talked about earlier.
Okay, so our next slide is usually a game time that we'd play in your class, but since we cannot go to our classes anymore, you guys can just Google pictures of different tails and try and guess what they are. Maybe play the game that like we just did with your parents or siblings and just get some more practice.
All right, so we do have one more animal for you to guess the tail use for. So if you look at it back there, what do you think this fat-tailed gecko might use its tail for? So hopefully when you guys looked at it, you said something along the lines of that the tail kind of looks like a head. And that's exactly what it's for. When it looks like a head like that, it really confuses predators. So predators think that they got the whole animal, they're going to have a nice snack. But geckos can actually drop their tail. So they just grab the tail and they're not going to have any snack. And the gecko is just going to keep on going.
All right, so on that note, we have our friend with us. Her name is Coco. She's an African fat-tailed gecko. She's right here in my hand. She's moving a little bit. She's kind of hard to see. But you can see her head is right here. It's moving. It has the eyeballs. And maybe if I change the camera direction, you'll be able to see her tail. But can you kind of see her tail on the end, how it matches her head? So it could look like that. So that is her defense. against predators. Coco is almost 8 years old, so she's around the age of some of you all. The geckos can live about 10 to 25 years in captivity, so it's a really big range and they could get pretty old. She is as big as she's going to get. You see, she's just about as long as my hand is. African fat-tailed geckos eat crickets, mealworms, and small bugs like that, but Coco is very special and she's a picky eater, so she'll only eat crickets. If you guys were wondering what she lives in kind of like a fish tank without the water, so it's just a dry tank. And it's got a heating pad under the bottom to keep her warm, but there's also got to be a humidity chamber, that way she can shed if she needs to. And then where in the world she is from, they're an African fat-tailed gecko, so obviously here, Africa, the one that looks like an elephant, and they're right here along the coast. Alrighty. So usually we have a question segment, but we won't be able to answer those, so Google's probably you're going to be your best friend, but thanks for coming.